Okay. Good morning. I'm Laura McConnell with the Rocky Mountain Type 1 Incident Management Team. Are you guys testing me? Okay. It's a pretty name. Spelling Laura, last name McConnell, McConnell, and I'm a public information officer with the Rocky Mountain Type 1 Incident Management Team. The Rocky Mountain Type 1 Incident Management Team was ordered Thursday evening. We were in travel status yesterday, and today is our first day assisting with the West Fork complex. We are stationed down here in Del Norte, for folks that aren't aware of that. So just a little bit of an overview of where we're at with this incident. Currently, our folks are tying in with the folks that have been down here. The local responders, the incident management team on the other side have done an amazing job, and we're pleased to be able to work with them and work with the local communities as well. The one thing to keep in mind from one of our incident commanders, he had said that our #1 priority is and will remain public and responder safety. The fire, the complex, what makes it a complex is there's multiple fires burning in different areas. The one key fire that I think folks are interested in hearing about, the Windy Pass, which is the one that was the biggest impact to South Fork, did not show a whole lot of activity. A lot of the smoke that we were seeing was kind of a combination from all of the fires. They said that the other day the fire had made roughly a 12,000 acre run. That's about 18.75 square miles. So that's a pretty big run. The fuel type that it was in when it did that was the spruce and the beetle. Where the fire is at now, there's an awful lot of ponderosa, mixed conifer, and aspen trees. The changing fuel types, they're also seeing changing fire behavior, which is they're optimistic about. That's good news. On the north end of the fire, there's two northernmost peaks that folks may be aware of. It was Trout Mountain and Metro's Lake. Those are two northernmost points where the fire has reached. In that area, they did see the fire reach a certain area that was heavy with aspen trees, and the fire pretty much made a turn. It would not burn in the aspen, and that's a lot of what's over by South Fork. Fire has not reached South Fork, however, it is pretty smoky in that area. One thing to keep in mind is that we do have very dry conditions, not only here but across the state, and folks are urged to please pay attention to the fire restrictions and other restrictions that are happening not only in your local areas but statewide. We did, as you saw the other day, conditions, when you mix conditions with wind, dry weather conditions, terrain, all the different fuel types, you have different types of fire activity. So our folks currently today are working with the people that have been here in order to look and evaluate the different areas in order to use the resources to where they're going to make the biggest benefit.
So how many acres total?
So currently, last night, and actually daily, they have been flying what they call an infrared flight. The infrared flight that they flew last night puts the entire complex at 42,000 acres, which is roughly, I believe, 55 square miles, right around there.
When you say it made a turn when it hit those aspens, so is it traveling now away from South Fork?
The part as far as on the northeast side, that's north of South Fork. So that was not the Windy Pass fire down below. That was the one that's southwest of where South Fork is, and that is also tied up in some area where there's a lot of aspen in that area. So based on the activity they saw on the northernmost area up by Metro's Lake, then where the aspen were and where you start to see the turn of the fire, they're optimistic based on what they're seeing down at Windy Pass.
So has the fire, the one that was threatening South Fork, is that slowed then, you can say? Or
It's what he said is that the fire activity was not as heavy as it was the other day.
So it's not advancing?
It's still burning,
Still burning.
but it was not showing the type of activity it was the other day.
Do you know how
Meaning
much it's
yesterday?
burning in town?
I had a question right over here.
What kind of weather conditions are you expecting today?
We do have another red flag warning today. We do expect hot and dry, windy conditions. However, because of where the different fires are burning, there are different terrain types, different fuel types, and different conditions as far as fuel types. So each different area could act differently. So they definitely have folks that are out there trying to evaluate that today.
How many people total have been evacuated?
Those numbers, we're still getting that information in. I don't have that. There's a question over here.
So how close has it burned to the town?
The last report that I heard is it's within 3 to 5 miles.
Is Creed threatened yet?
Creed has not been evacuated at this point. It is an area that, you know, when they do their planning, they try and look out multiple days in what-if scenarios, if it gets this or if it does react this way. So they are looking at that if they were to do it and have a plan in place if that were to happen. Okay?
So we're looking at Windy Pass has gotten over this key area.
It has not crossed. It has not crossed. Nope, not crossed.
So we're looking at 42,000 acres of growth of 2,000. We're talking about a rapidly growing fire. We saw a 7-mile run on Thursday. So how do you categorize today? Is this good news for the fire? Is it not growing as fast as expected?
Well, and that's a good question. You know, in certain areas, so the fire is not contiguous. We have the Papoose fire in one area, we have the Windy Pass in another area, and then we have the West Fork is another one. And they're acting very differently. And based on terrain, based on where the fire is at a certain time, what the heat of the day and the wind in the day, what that's going to do to affect it. The fire is not burning like it was the other day in all areas of the fire. So it could be, it's very active in certain areas of the Papoose. However, there are mixed fuel types with mixed conifer and aspen that it's not increasing fire activity. So we'll have more of those answers after they get a chance to evaluate that today.
So do you call it somewhat of a successful night if we only grew about 2,000? How do you describe that?
I think in listening to my incident commanders and talking to any of the operations folks, it's always a successful day when we have not lost a life and we have not lost someone's home or done damage to private property. And that's the key thing to keep in mind here. This will be a long-term event. What specifically that means, that's what they plan to evaluate over the next several days. So I have time for a couple more questions.
South Fork resident, got 2 questions. One, is our electricity been turned back on? It was turned off yesterday at 3:05. And second, any kind of prediction of when we'll be allowed to go back to our homes?
I don't have that, but I can certainly get that information for you. If we can tie in after, that'd be great. Okay? At this point, there is no report of structures. We had one question back here.
Is there a current up-to-date map?
They are working. They are working. There is a current map that they have right now because of all the resources that are coming in and getting set up. All of the maps are going out to the fire crews that are out there responding now. We are working to get an information board set up down here for you folks and then also down at the park for the media as well. We have time for one more question. Robert?
More resources today?
We have, so in regards to resources, over the next several days, folks will see an influx, a pretty big influx of fire engines, fire crews coming in to assist. That does not necessarily mean increased fire activity. That just means that because of what it did the other day, we need more people to put towards it, and that's exactly what we're going to get. Aviation resources are available to us. They're coming out of Pagosa Springs and Durango. However, that is going to be based on what the wind will allow.
And will that include the DC channel?
That I don't know. I do know that they have multiple resources. You know, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is we have to share resources nationally. So there are other places where unfortunately folks are in similar situations. So we have to make sure that we share those resources. It doesn't make sense for us to hold on to a resource that we can't use because of the wind if it could make benefit for another fire as well. Okay, so I do need to step out and get back in there so I can get some more information out to you folks. We are going to do a briefing this evening for you folks at the park, and we're working on getting a briefing specific down here so you folks don't have to travel all over the place.